Welcome back to Upper Country Farms.
Yes, welcome back.
We are Mac.
And Jose.
We run a 20-acre market farm up here in the beautiful Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And today we're doing our weekly coffee video. This is going to be a two-part series, so this week and next week, we want to talk to you about setting up a farm business, whether or not farming is correct for you and how that looks for you. This is not necessarily meant to be like a you should get into farming or you shouldn't get into farming. It's meant to give you food for thought so you can be really thinking about whether or not farming is the right road for you, and maybe develop some clarity around that. Yep. Because we've seen way too many people get into farming and get out of farming.
Yeah, there's a big difference between farming hobby, and be seriously.
Yeah, make a living at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's there's so many homesteaders out there that are growing food just for themselves, and that's also a great way to go about this. It doesn't have to turn into a profitable business if you've got, jobs on the side and you're happy just growing your own food.
Yeah.
So this first video is going to be 7 items that you should get clarity around if you want to be a farmer. And that is going to lead into a second video, which is going to be about doing a business plan. And I really believe if you are not willing to put together a business plan, you probably shouldn't be in business because you need that clarity and that definition around what you're doing, especially when you go from having a boss to not having a boss. What's getting you up every day? What are the goals? What needs to be happening? The business plan can help define that for you. So today I think we're just going to really settle into the items that you should be thinking about. Where I want to start is to talk about, before we get into the 7 things, it's really to talk about 2 cycles that you might be stuck in that I think developing a plan will help get you out of. And the first thing is the cycle of I need to do it right now. Yeah. And what happens then, you go out, you buy all the stuff, and then you're like, oh, well, this isn't really what I wanted. And you end up quitting. So you get, and I've been there, I've started several businesses over the years. I'm a professional quitter, but not with farming, but in other places. So what I would do is I would get all excited about something. I would go out, buy the things I needed, think that's what I wanted to do, and then quit. And I think the reason that was happening repetitively is I didn't have a plan. Like I hadn't put together or gone through all the thought. I didn't think to go work for somebody that was doing what I wanted to do, to see what it took, to see how much time I would have to spend on things I didn't really want to be doing. And so I think developing clarity can help get you out of that cycle. The other cycle is the constantly planning cycle, where you never take the step to get into what it is that you want to do. And I've been there too. A lot of that came along with depression, but I would plan and plan and plan, and I would buy a new notebook and write down ideas, and then it never went anywhere. Like I never took the next step to get something going, even if it was a good idea. The beauty is all the things I've done wrong in life have led me to this beautiful life that I have. So there's, also benefit to things not happening. Yeah. Any thoughts on any of that? Do you ever feel like you've done that in your life?
Oh, I think everybody have same situation in some point in their life. Yeah. When you start something and then fail, start again, fail.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when you find something you really like, it is easy to go.
That's really what I think, is that when you figure out what you're passionate about and you make a plan, you become almost unstoppable. Yeah. Like you'll do all those things that you wouldn't do on a previous idea or previous business plan or previous part of your life. Suddenly the tasks that were difficult become easier when you're excited. And I find the further I get into this, I hate doing the accounting, but the further I get into running this as a business, the accounting is actually what's telling me that we're being successful. So I love putting in the numbers. Yeah. I love seeing what the sales are versus what we have outgoing, because I think it's just showing us that we're hitting the milestones. Yeah. So it's funny how those things can happen. one more thing I want to talk about before we get started are fears. It is very normal when you are walking a new path to have a lot of fears. And I think that's a good thing in some ways, and can also stop you in other ways. So I just watched our friends Jess and Chris over at DayDreamers Bound. They posted a video. They are just getting started. They just bought their farm and they want to start a flower farm. And they made a video, we can link that below, talking about their fears. All the things that could go wrong. Will they actually want to butcher animals if they have animals on their farms, or will they just be pets? And, these are just questions that you will never know unless you get started, or you'll never know the answers to those. And you'll never get over the fears if you don't try it or do it a couple of times. So, I know, do you feel like you've had fears coming into this a little bit?
Yeah, but then I started thinking about, it's not like a fail, it's just like a learning, if you fail, next time you will have the learning, and you don't have to repeat the same.
Yeah, it's all, I've struggled with butchering. Every year I'd say, we're not going to raise animals this year. We're not going to raise animals this year. And then last year we started getting some of the correct equipment and, doing even more. And I was like, wow, I'm really enjoying this. And now we're taking on even a little bit more of that because we're enjoying that aspect of it. But it took me a long time to learn the process and get comfortable with it. So I was just constantly in the fear mode.
Yeah. And sometimes we make decisions based off our emotion, so that's the problem sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's a good reason to have a plan. Then you're not basing everything on emotion. You're basing it on what's actually happening. Yeah. Okay, so the first thing you need to think about when you're starting any business or walking down this farm path is, what is your current situation? You need to be very clear about what's going on in your life right now as you're wanting to step into this next thing. Where are your finances? What does your family situation look like? Where do you live? You have to get very real about your life. If you have a lot of debt, then maybe that's not the right step for you. What's the plan to get out of that debt? Yeah. If you're living at home with your parents right now, what's the plan to get a farm started and create your own path? So get clear about how what is going on in your life now feeds into that next step that you're wanting to take. And I think the more of a realistic look you take at what's going on right now in your life, the easier it's going to be to move forward. And I think the next things we're going to talk about will help you develop clarity around those aspects of your life. The second thing that I think is extremely important for you to look at is your family situation. Because this is not a path you can walk alone if you are married or if you have children. This is something that everybody has to be on board with. Because if they're not, you're going to really struggle. Yeah. It's going to make it a lot more difficult to walk the path if they don't have clarity around what your vision is. So if you have kids, are you going to have to move and take them away from their friends and their school? Move them somewhere brand new. Yeah. If you have a spouse, are they fearful of what this next step looks like? Like, how are we going to bring in money? How are we going to pay for the things we need to pay for? These are things you need to address. You can't just go the path alone. Yeah. So the other thing is are you going to be able to draw support from those people? Maybe your spouse wants to walk the path with you. Maybe your kids are very interested. For me, it's my mom has been a huge support for us at the farmer's market. Thankfully, Jose has never had to work a farmer's market with me. Yeah. My mom, pretty much from the beginning, has stepped in both in Marquette and Munising. Yeah. And so she's my number 2 at the farmer's markets. And it's a blessing to have her because we don't have to pay somebody. She just loves coming and helping us out and working with it. So addressing with your family doesn't all have to be negative. There can be a lot of positives that come out of it. So you take the time to make sure everybody is on board with walking the path with you. And I think the next step, which is building a business plan, that's the next video we'll make, is if you have a clear plan and a clear vision, it can help get everybody else on board, because then you can say, this is what it's going to look like. You know, I want to save up for the next 4 years. I want to purchase the land at that point. This is how I plan on bringing in money. I think it can help relieve a lot of fears that the other people in your life.
Kaboom.
And the rice is complete. I think it can alleviate the fears that a spouse might have around what you're doing, or your family. And the other thing is, it can give you some footing to stand on, to say, I think this will work.
Yeah.
Without developing the plan, it's really can be hard to get other people on board.
Yeah. Here, I think we are on the same page. We have same vision. We are going in the same way. I think that's why we are working good, I think.
Yeah. Plus, we don't have to think that I'm going to be out working and then I have to hire an employee. I basically have a committed second person working the farm. The third thing that you really need to think about is if you are physically in a place that you're able to run a farm. Now, there's things you could do to make the physicality more or less. There's different kind of farms you can operate that will change that. So knowing what your body is capable of can help decide what kind of farm that you want to operate. But I don't think when we started this path that I realized how physically demanding farming was going to be.
Yeah. We start making bed with little shovel. So the soil was so hard. I cannot even believe. So I wouldn't say I'm naive, but I have this vision of like things working out perfectly and very easily. And our first season, I was like, oh, we can build the beds by hand. We had a warm up in November, and I was very clear that we could do the beds by hand. And we got out there, I'm not even kidding you, we shoveled 10 feet of a first bed. And I said, oh, no. I was so wrong about what we're capable of. And we immediately went out and found a tiller, rented a tiller, and built our first beds. Our neighbor came over with his 2-wheel tractor and was like, would you like to borrow this? And that's how we built. I think he hear our screaming, and he says, hey, that's cool.
He said, I can make your life a little bit easier. The physicality of it is, you're on your hands and knees, you're pulling weeds. Sometimes my hands hurt so bad at the end of the day from getting down and pulling weeds. We've tried to start implementing some things so we're not doing that as often. But planting, you have to get down, you have to get up. Sometimes my quads hurt so bad from squatting and standing up, and standing up. The other thing that I didn't consider is, I go to market 2 days a week. I don't have Jose along with me. We load the trailer here. I get to market. I have to unload that entire thing by myself. And then at the end of market, hopefully it's usually a little bit lighter. We've sold a lot of stuff. But I have to reload the trailer. And then when I get home, sometimes he's busy working, planting beds or doing whatever. And then I have to unload it again. And that's 2 days a week. I have to load and unload and load and unload. I'll tell you what, by the end of the season, it's probably the one thing that makes me go, why are we doing this? Because it is so repetitive and so much lifting, especially at the end of the season when it's squashes and corn and potatoes and onions. It's all very heavy. Yeah,
farming is very physical job.
Yeah, I always tell people at the farmer's market, next season I'm going to start farming just cotton balls because I feel like that would be a lot lighter. But it is very physical. Sometimes you have wrist pain in the mornings. You really need to think about if you want to put your body through that. It doesn't mean you can't hire somebody to do a lot of the more physical things.
Yeah, or you can work smart, not hard,
Yeah.
But here on the farm, sometimes you have to work hard. You don't have choice. Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing is we've recently added microgreens to our mix, and that's definitely something that's less physically demanding that you could be doing. So it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It means you may have to design a little bit different style of farm, or design it differently if you have physical limitations, or you don't feel like you're capable of doing some of the things that need to be done. So item number 3 is how physically demanding farming can be. Number 4 is to think about the level of time you're going to have to commit to farming. And there's 2 different aspects I want to talk about here. One is the day-to-day time that it takes. We begin seeding trays here in February, and we stop seeding and putting things in the ground in October. A lot of people say to us, even in September, they say, "Oh, you're still planting?" Well, yes, if you want to make a living all the way to the last farmer's market, which is in November, we're still planting at the beginning of October for things like salad mix and lettuces and radishes, those really quick to market crops that we want to still have available. Yeah. So you need to think about, you're not just planting seeds and sowing in the spring, it's a seasonal thing. Yeah. And then the harvesting, what do your days look like when you start harvesting? Because it's very different. May is very much about planting and getting things in the ground, and August is very much about, you're still planting, but now you've added harvesting on top of that. Yeah. And our harvest days especially have gotten longer as we've gotten better at farming. But in October, we're up super early, we're working until super late. Yeah. So the day-to-day hours can be overwhelming, and it is never the same. So it changes seasonality. We go from barely having to work to having to work a lot.
Yeah. And the weather sometimes is not very helpful, because sometimes it's too hot, sometimes raining, and the fall,
sometimes cold.
And the fall is cold.
Yeah, your hands out there are just freezing. Yeah. Then we have the day-to-day time challenges, but what about the time it takes to build a successful or operational business? Along with that is, how long does it take you to build a customer base? Oh, yeah. You have to put in the time. Now, in Munising, we've had a little bit easier time because we're the only vegetable farm on a full scale operating at that farmer's market. So it's been a lot easier to build a customer base that trusts us and comes to us every week. But in Marquette, because there are farms that are larger and have been operating for many more years than us, people still go to them before they come to our booth. Now, we have a few loyal customers there, but it's a little disheartening sometimes at the beginning of market to look over and see the lines that these other farms have. But, we have to recognize that they have put in a lot more time, a lot more years, a lot more effort to get there than we have. And so think about that. We have in Munising sometimes farms will come to 1 or 2 markets and then say, well, we're not going to make any money here. But it's because people go to who they know and trust. Yeah. And if you're not willing to put in the time commitment, and it may not just be a year, you're talking years to build that customer base and for people to really trust you. Are you willing to put in that time? This is not going to be a 1-year endeavor. Yeah. You're going to be looking at several years to build a business. And they say that businesses take 3 to 5 years before they're operating in the black. And part of that is the size of your learning curve, how long it takes you to build a meaningful customer base, the amount of time it takes to get operational where you're, producing enough to actually be able to make a living at what you're doing. So there's just a lot of things to think about when it comes to time, all the way from day to day to what it's going to look like 5 years from now. The 5th thing that's important to look at is, what is your current knowledge base? And this is going to be different. Everybody is going to come from a very different place. For example, I grew up in a world where my dad operated a business and I helped him out a lot. So the basic business functionality, I understood how to go about doing a lot of the accounting and those kind of things. I had that knowledge. As far as farming knowledge goes, I have very little knowledge. We watched a lot of videos, took a lot of time out. We still do. Yeah. If we're struggling in a certain area like carrots, we'll, do a Google search and see what other people are doing. Yeah. Read some articles, figure some things out. So getting clear about what it is that you know and what you don't know and what you need to learn. And the beauty is the first few years are the hardest because your learning curve is the greatest. The longer you do it, the less of a learning curve you have. So for instance, by year 5 now, we're pretty confident. So now what we do is we just, every year we talk about like, wow, that didn't go well, or we need to rethink that. And so then we look just at those specific things that we feel like we need to learn. For example, growing raspberries has eluded us. It seems like we are a great raspberry growing area and we cannot do it. So it's one of the things that's on our list of things to do some research, figure out how we can do it better. What are we doing wrong? Why can't we get them to grow? You have to understand that the first few years is going to be a struggle because you're learning so much. I think if you can make it through the first 5 years, you're going to be golden. But you're going to struggle. No matter, because you may be struggling learning the business side of things. You may know the farming, but you may not understand how to put together the accounting. What's that look like? Do you know how to use QuickBooks or some other program that you can enter your accounting into? Everything is going to be about learning and trying to figure out what you need to know.
Exactly. Along
these same lines, what are your strengths and weaknesses? I think you want to know like what you're really good at and what you're not very good at. And you may need to hire in somebody to fill in where you're weak.
Yeah.
Jose and I play really well off each other because he does a lot of the things that I'm not very good at, and I do the things he's not very good at. But one of the things I've had to learn is I'm not a very good implementer. I'm a great planner, but stepping into implementing is very difficult for me. But watching Jose just every day do things has really taught me a lot about implementing. Because what happens is when I'm learning something new, I get overwhelmed and I end up quitting. But I know that about myself. And so as I've watched Jose, because he does it very different. He just does the next task, the next task, the next task. And I think about the whole project. So when you think about the whole project, it gets overwhelming, and then I have a tendency to want to quit. But if you just look at the next step you have to take, but then it doesn't seem so difficult.
Yeah.
And so he's taught me that. So it's one of the things that I've learned better is more how to implement than I was able to do in the past, because I really struggled with that. So that was one of my weaknesses. Maybe not as much, but I still hate starting something new. I'm not very good at it.
Well, nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect.
I try.
Everybody have.
Okay, so that's number 5, is really knowing what you know and knowing what you don't know. Number 6, this is a very important one, and it's to be mentally healthy. Get yourself mentally healthy, because starting a new business will drop you to your knees so fast if you aren't prepared for what it mentally takes to get up every day and do something.
Yeah.
And I've struggled, I would say. I mean, Jose can testify to the fact that in the first season, maybe the first couple of seasons, I would have an emotional breakdown where I would just start to cry because there was so much going on and it was overwhelming, and I would be in that negative mindset repeatedly where I'm like, why are you doing this? You're not good at this. You should never have started a business. I mean, I can just hear the words running through my head, and I would do that. Poor Jose, thankfully he's my rock, but I've had to learn, and I've gotten a lot better. Like, I don't self-abuse very much anymore, but in the beginning, I did that a lot more. And so being in an emotionally healthy place where you can handle the bumps and you know everything is going to be okay long term.
Yeah. Yeah, when you start a business, it's, well, like, I guess for some people it will be easy, but for us it was not easy. Because we are a little afraid to do a lot of mistake.
Yeah.
So think even I was showing my face, yeah, everything is good, but maybe it was not.
Well, and I think we've found that even pulling the cameras out, and this is part of the reason, because, you know, in July, we're tired, we're grumpy, things aren't always going right, and so we haven't been as willing to pull out the cameras because it's just overwhelming to talk about all the things that aren't necessarily perfect, or to talk about the fact that you're tired, or to be grumpy on camera. Business is really a series of making mistakes, learning from those mistakes, and moving forward, or failing, or figuring out what you like and what you don't like. I think the beauty of figuring out like what your niche is, for example, at the farmers markets, I can bring 100 bags of salad mix to market, and every video you watch out there will say, oh, salad mix, that's the way to make a living. Mixed greens, you know, wash 100 bags, watch them fly off the tables. If I bring 100 bags, I'll sell 25. If I bring 25, I sell 25. If I bring 50, I sell 25. So, you know, in the beginning, you know, it's like, what are we doing wrong? The thing is there are 2 farms at the farmers market that do an incredible job of salad mix. People know to go there. So the people we sell to are the people that walk into market, have never been there before, and they're like, oh, salad mix, I need that. But we don't sell to the customers that have been coming for 10 years who know where to go.
Yeah.
And know what they like already. So it's, you know, that was a failure for us. We would try, and I'm like, oh, bring a lot of bags, stack them up, and it doesn't matter.
No.
But where we have found niches along the way is summer squash. People say, oh, in the middle of summer, you can't sell summer squash. And we never throw out a summer squash, hardly ever. We sell and we produce a lot of summer squash.
Yeah, even those small ones.
Yeah, people come to our table because they know we have summer squash from as early in the season as we can possibly have it to as late in the season.
Yeah.
And so no matter how many videos you watch, how much you think you've learned, until you put your feet on the ground and have failures and have successes, you cannot fully know how your farm is going to operate. Yeah. What are going to be the things you need to do? So being mentally healthy and being able to overcome that, because if we got stuck on the fact and every week we brought 100 bags of salad mix, we would be losing money. Yeah. But now that we know, we make, you know, build the exact amount of beds we need for lettuces and for salad mix because we know what we're going to sell at market. Yeah. So another aspect of mental health is to be able to hear what other people are saying and still walk your own course. Yeah. Which can be very hard because people will tell you, the biggest thing we hear is, oh, farming is so hard. I don't necessarily find it that difficult. Yes, it's a lot of work.
It is.
But, you know, when people are talking about what is difficult for you, it might be different than what's difficult for us. And so to be able to hear what other people are saying and not take that to heart. This also goes along with the people that are going to be naysayers for you in your business. And I love my father. We get along very well, but he is not our biggest supporter and has not been. In some ways he is, but in an emotional capacity, he has brought me to my knees multiple times with the things he's said about whether or not we're going to be able to make a living at this. If I had listened to him every time he said something, I would have just shut down and not operated. But what I have to know is his life is not our life. Yeah. He doesn't know what we want. He doesn't know what matters to Jose and I. And so we just have to hear what he says and move on. I can't get caught up in it because if I get emotionally caught up in it, it's going to emotionally affect the other things we're doing here on the farm. So if you are clear about your path, if you have made the plan, if you know what your vision is, you've got to be steady in that and be able to walk past what other people are saying. It also goes for the positive things because people may say, oh, you're going to make so much money doing that. Or, you know, people might think you're doing way better than you are. You have to just be clear about your reality and what you want.
Yeah, because everybody have different opinions and could be from to the goods to the bad. Yeah.
Another part of mental health is well, I think this is overall business health, but is the capacity to say no to people, which can be very hard. All of our friends go to dinner every Wednesday night, all the our farm friends around here. And we're just not yet at a place financially where that is something that's doable for us. It's not really something we're interested in, and it's not something that financially we're willing to, because you figure every time we go out to eat, maybe $50 or $60, depending on how many beers Jose drinks.
Huh? What?
But that is not where we want our money going. So we feel, we see that because they live right. Some of them live right here. We see them drive by and we think, well, we're not going to go with them. But really, we're so comfortable with what our vision is that we say, well, that money is going to be better spent other places, or maybe in 5 years we'll have the capacity to be able to go with them when they go. But it is fun when we do get to go. Yeah. The last thing that I want to talk about here is that, that having a plan mentally gives you the capacity, I think, to communicate effectively with others. So if you need things accomplished or done, you're going to be better able to do that if you're mentally healthy. Because I think a lot of times, first of all, for me, I'm very controlling. So I want other people to do things exactly the way I want to do them. But as I've gotten more clear about the vision, what I've realized is I have to let go of that control if I want things to get accomplished around here. I can't do it all. And if I try to tell him exactly how he needs to do things, he's not going to want to do things. So nothing's going to get accomplished around here. So part of mental health is having an understanding of what the needs of the business are, and they have to come before necessarily what your personal needs are or what your personal preferences are. I would prefer everybody does things my way.
Well, I think could be, but we had to run a different business,
We can't be a farmer if I want to control everything. No, I probably would have to work for myself also. Nobody would want to work with me long term. Okay, so those are the aspects of mental health. If you're not mentally healthy, I think getting into business may be something you want to reconsider until you take the steps to get yourself there. The last item I want to talk to today for you getting clear about your business is to set and be very clear about your values and your vision. Because I think the clearer you are about the things you want in life, the easier it is going to be to develop the business. And I think the quicker things will go because you have clarity and definition around the things that you want to have happen. So what does this look like for you? Are you 100% farming?
Yeah.
Are you planning on maybe farming for 5 years and then being able to write a book? Now, farming may never, depending on the type of farming, I hate putting constraints on anything because I believe if you have an idea for your business, you can create anything you want. Any vision is possible. I have seen people do things that I thought were completely impossible. People have built these kind of farms starting with $0. So they have bootstrapped it all together. People have gone out and gotten funding for millions of dollars to build small farms. Some people want to run huge farms with combines and corn. Some people want to run these little tiny market farms. Some people want a flower farm. Some people want to do meat farming. So you have to be clear about what your vision is. Because I think when you're clear and when you're passionate, anything is possible. And so developing and being very clear and reconnecting with that vision every day and knowing your values, because I believe if you're stepping on your values to get where you want to go, that's not a long-term plan for success because it's very hard to overcome what your values are. For example, I'm not a big fan of consumerism. Now, in order to run a business, you probably have to be in consumerism at some level, but we are very conscious of what we buy and bring into this farm. And I think all the time about the plastic we're using and is there a specific value to that? I don't want to buy something and then have it sit here and rot because we're not using it. I want to only purchase things that we're going to be using here on the farm. So knowing that our value is one of our values is not to over purchase and not to just have a bunch of equipment sitting around. It helps guide what we're doing as business owners. It helps guide us as we're finding other people that want to be a part of what we're doing here. So all of our farm members who pay us every year, you know, they know our values, and they also that's part of the reason they like to buy from us, is because they share some of those values. Yeah. And so by being clear about our values, we are attracting other people with similar values. So be clear about your values and your vision if you are wanting to start any kind of business. Yep. I think it can only help you create what it is that you want to create. Those are the 7 things that Jose and I think you really need to develop clarity around before you start your business. So we'll just do a quick recap. So that is getting clear about your current situation and understanding where you are. Is your family on board? And what are you doing to maybe get them on board, give them some security around what it is that you're doing? Are you physically ready to start down the road of farming? Number 4 would be the time. Are you willing to spend the kind of time it's going to take for you to start this? Number 5, what is your current knowledge? What are your current strengths and weaknesses? And how are you utilizing those or overcoming those to get your business started? Number 6 is, are you mentally healthy? Because there's a lot going to go into building a business that could drag you down if you're not careful. And then the last thing is being clear about your values and your vision to get where you're going. And I think that last one, the values and vision, is really going to fit into our next video, which will be about actually setting up a business plan. And I believe if you're not willing to set up a business plan or look at building a business plan, that going into business is probably not right for you, because building a business plan might sound overwhelming, but it really is the guiding principle for how you are going to set up your business. What that's going to look like helps you decide whether or not you even want to be doing it. So that's going to be the next video that we're creating next week. I wanted this to be one video, but it would have been way too long. So we're going to do that video next week instead, because there's a lot that goes into building a business plan.
Yeah, if you want to start a farming business, if you feel like you need something help, we can try to help you. Yeah, pay attention to what kind of videos we have coming out. Look back through some of our other videos. We love farming and we really enjoy what we do. If you want to see because we do try to post our day-to-day operations on our videos and show a real picture of what farming looks like, because it's not, I don't think it's what a lot of people expect. There's a lot, you know, we see the images on TV of the big combines but it's very different than what the vision of farming is. It's not all dreamy. I'll just say that. It's just dirty job.
So we have some other great videos that we're going to be doing. You're going to see this week that we have the weather warming up, so we're just probably going to do a regular farm video. That should come out later in the week. And then we also still want to do a video on how we're using our transplanter, our seeder, and our soil blockers. Talk about your kit that you need for farmers markets, those kind of things. So those are other videos we have planned for the near future. So we hope you'll give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. Again, we are Upper Country Farms. I am Mac.
And Jose.
And thank you for watching.
Thank you.